Hi, Christopher. You were on the line. What would you like to talk about today? Hi. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can now. There you are. There you are, Christopher.
Okay. Sorry. I thought my browser kind of freaked out about it. Shannon, student Dr. Ben, thanks for taking my call. I've got a friend of mine I've known for about 30 years, and in the last couple of years, he's been really increasingly isolated and convinced of stuff that he doesn't have anywhere near enough evidence to justify it. And obviously, COVID has been a fertile ground for it. For example, like the two-week quarantine for ingress of unvaccinated people into Canada and Australia, in his mind, are equivalent to the Jews in concentration camps. And seems to think that seriously, it thinks there'll be like a mass heart attacks, autoimmune diseases, and people dying in their sleep because of the mRNA-based vaccines. We're really worried about him. Mutual friends or employees are worried about him. We get calls. We just have no idea what to do. Some background on him, he never brings his stuff up with me because he knows I'd call bullshit on it real quickly. He does have a history of mental illness. He's kind of a self-professed contrarian. He always does whatever the opposite of what everybody else is doing, and it's kind of his identity. He believes in astrology and tarot cards and homeopathy, and that's actually, I think, part of the problem. Yet he's a man of science and engineering. He is an engineer by trade. He was diagnosed with quote unquote lead poisoning by a holistic doctor about 3 years ago, and he's been going through chelation. He's isolated himself. We used to talk multiple times a week, and now we talk once every 3 to 4 months. And he only talks to one person who also shares his belief, and everybody's against him and cherry picks data. Never occurs to him they might be wrong. Never peer reviews anything. And anyone who doesn't agree with him is either stupid or their sources are bad or they haven't done their research or, that kind of thing. And we have no idea how to reach him. He's a really good guy. It's just heartbreaking. And he's a really good guy. And it's not only the weight of, my friendship with him, it's also everybody else calling me and stuff like that. And so I'm hoping one or both of you might have some moderate ideas of what we could do here if there's anything to be done.
I have a few deprogramming ideas. Ben's more probably well-versed in the medical aspects, but when it comes to trying to show somebody the errors in their reasoning rather than attempting to disprove what they say, an excellent tactic that tends to work is to ask what their source is and ask if they can review it with you. So walking them through source methodology using their sources tends to be an effective way to do something. So for example, if he says, and they will domino them. So just know that going in, it's an investment because they will domino their sources and there's an infinite amount of them.
Right.
But you can look through their source and go show them the source methodology. Say, oh, okay, well, this is a claim from this website. I wouldn't necessarily believe it from this website. Let's go see where it came from. And then go down the hall of mirrors to the original source, look at what the original source says, where it came from, and then address that source itself. Because it also demonstrates to them, and once it's done enough, and if they're open to it, that they're just believing things that are sort of tertiary to the actual information and taking it on face value. And it exposes that they are doing that in front of somebody else, which kind of activates their ego model of themselves, which will force them to go try to find stronger sources. If they're that type of person, and in the attempt to go find stronger sources, once you do this repeatedly, eventually, usually, hopefully, they'll come to realize the weakness of the sources that they're using. So that's one model that can be utilized. It's very much context and person dependent. But that way, instead of saying, hey, I refute your source with this source, you're refuting their source with their source.
Right. So I sort of have to get onto the crazy train with him, for lack of a better term, because it's going to be a time investment, but I mean, he's worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, do you have any ideas?
I guess.
Yeah. So that's a really good idea. Definitely. And then I have kind of my own little technique that I've started using with people in evaluating their claims. And it's almost a little bit like street epistemology style, but kind of from my like scientific lens a little bit. So kind of making them get to the answer on their own. making them think that it was their idea that they got there is a great way, inspiring their curiosity to explore it, if they're willing to go with you there. So something that I'll kind of do is take one specific claim that they make. And have you ever watched the show House?
Yes.
So you know the scene where like Dr. House and then all like the residents are in the back room and they've got their whiteboard and they've got the problem and they say, okay, what could this possibly be? And they just start writing out everything that they can think of. And then they go through and they cross them off. Like, okay, is it this? No. Is it this? No. So what you can do, take a specific claim, write it down, and then kind of, it almost puts them on the spot a little bit to kind of stream of consciousness their way through it initially. Like, you say that you have lead poisoning. What if that's what you're thinking it is? That's your primary differential. What else could it be? Like, if you're presenting with this symptomology, what else could it be? Maybe, like, I don't know, aliens invaded my brain and now I have this thing. Okay, so that's an option. Don't discount it. Like,
sure.
Just say, okay, that's a thought. We add that to the list. Something else, like, I don't know, put anything at all that you can think of that would cause you to that would be the cause of whatever it is you're talking about. Write it down. And then you can go through at the end, evaluate each one and say, okay, what would I have to do? What could we design an experiment together? How could we demonstrate that this thing is the cause? And then you let them talk through, like, okay, so if it was really the aliens invading my brain, I could, like, just think through how you could get the aliens to come back. Like, could I lure the aliens in this way? Like, what do I need to figure out? What, like, it's a funny example, but it gets them to think about the steps needed to reach the conclusion. And then it's not necessarily invalidating what they said. It's just getting them to maybe understand, maybe this isn't as practical as I thought it was, or maybe this other thing is more likely. Just a little technique there.
Oh, I like that.
Interesting. So yeah, it is going to be a little bit of a time investment either way, but like I said, he is worth it. The difficult part of it is, his attitude about doctors is, usually it devolves into a discussion about big pharma or whatever. And it's like, well, even if opioids were overprescribed, it doesn't mean that penicillin doesn't work. There's some very big holes in his logical thinking, unfortunately, and so I'm going to have to work around that somehow. But yeah, okay, I'm going to go think about that a little bit. I appreciate you both. If nothing else, I'll let you go, and thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you for the call, Christopher. Have a good rest of your day.
Take care. You too.
Thanks. Bye.